What if the biggest joke this April Fool's Day is the one we've been believing about ourselves? Stay with me, this one matters.
Welcome to Aging Flipped, where grandmotherhood becomes your launchpad for transforming aging. I'm your host, Debbie Talbert. My mission is to help you create a rich, enriched, and optimal life in your grandmotherhood years by flipping the script on aging. Each episode reveals new possibilities for creating a lasting legacy while thriving mentally, physically, and emotionally. Let's jump in and reshape that aging story together. Hey, welcome. I decided to go live today on April Fool's Day. This is me learning new skills at the age of 67, how to go live, and how to record the audio on GarageBand in the background. Thank you, technology. Let's go. Today's topic is going to be all around the lies about aging. And I feel like today, April Fool's Day, is a perfect day to start rewriting them. Because the reality is, as most of the time on April Fool's Day, right? It's all about this little kind of joke that we're on the lookout for jokes and stuff like that. And so today, I just thought this would be the perfect day to kind of start flipping that script in our head about some of the lies that we've been told, that we've been fooled about aging. And so in this episode, I'm going to point out and bring to your forefront and to your consciousness 5 lies that we've been told and what they're actually doing to you by continuing to believe them. Welcome back to the Aging Flip podcast, where we talk about the story the world has told us about aging and rewrite it into something truer, wiser, and more honesty about what you're actually experiencing, so that this season of your life can be way more exciting for you. And today is April Fool's Day, as I said in the beginning, prepping myself for going live here. And traditionally, it's a day full of practical jokes and little pranks. But let's really pause a second and think about that. What if the biggest joke isn't the one that maybe your coworker played on you this morning, or your spouse played on you this morning, or your kids or grandkids? What if the real prank has been played on all of us? Specifically, those of us who are over the age of 50. And you're growing into your next chapter. And for some of you and the women that I work with, I focus on the women in their grandmotherhood years. And so those of you that maybe you're just becoming a grandmother, or you're going to soon be a grandmother. And this can be an incredible part of your life experience. However, believing some of these outdated and downright false beliefs about what this season of life is supposed to be like can really impact how you experience this season and how you experience your time with your grandkids even, or how you experience your time with your adult kids. And so today, I want to expose 5 lies and help you be able to rewrite them. And then I'm also going to give you some insight and a couple of stories behind how that's impacted my clients or myself in my life, and also some science, because there is scientific evidence around what happens if you continue to believe these beliefs, and these lies. But before I do that, let me go over and check the live feed to find out what's actually happening. Okay, it's still going, it's still working. Comments, if you are watching live, go ahead and leave a comment, say hi, wave, and let me know that you're here, and let me know something that you might want to know about. Or tell me about one of your lies that you're believing about aging. All right, so let's go move on. And I'll keep checking the space over there. But the first lie that we have is that your best years are behind you. Who hasn't actually heard that one, right? Or believed that one? I know for the longest time I did. I lived into that belief that my best days were behind me. And also the number of women who I flew with, or passengers in conversations that I was having with passengers on board the airplane, how many times they said something along the lines of, I feel like I missed my window. I feel like it's too late for me. I feel like my best days are behind me. And what I want you to know is that life doesn't hand you out like when you're born. And just like the food on the shelf where it has this best used by date, hey, when we're born, we're not stamped with this best used by date. We really aren't. And you don't lose your potential at 50 like that carton of milk that is best used by a specific date. It really doesn't, that does not happen to it. Yet, that thought and that lie that you catch yourself thinking and believing almost innocently like that your best years are behind you is like you've given yourself a best use by date. In fact, science and the studies in neuroscience and adult development show that emotional intelligence and the decision making and the creativity all continue to grow well into our later decades in life. This is the time of becoming, not the time of fading. Your life experience is the very thing that gives you the perspective, the confidence, and the self-awareness to build a future. And by the way, it hasn't actually happened yet. It's still unfolding. So to use all of that perspective, your self-confidence, your self-awareness to create that future you want on purpose, because it's unfolding. It's not created yet, and you get to be the one to create it. So there's no way it's actually too late. You are now even better equipped to create it on purpose than you were, say, a decade ago. And so that's lie number one. And lie number two is you are no longer desirable or relevant. And this one really does get portrayed a lot, specifically for women, because we get replaced by the younger versions, or even I was on a podcast episode recently, and we were making a little side note about conversation about how in the news media and in the big media channels, if you pay attention to them, the men on the shows, they've been around for decades. But the women have not. They seem to somehow get replaced by younger versions. Yet the men get to stay and hang out for decades. And it, on an unconscious level, whether or not you're even aware of it, as you're seeing that happen and your brain is taking that in, you're receiving that message of like, oh, I'm no longer desirable, or I'm no longer relevant, because you see these things and this happening right in front of you. And it's everywhere. The anti-aging industry is worth over $6 billion. And it genuinely thrives on convincing women that youth equals value. Because if you believe that youth equals value, then you are going to be spending your hard-earned dollars on anything and everything that they push at you that is telling you it's going to help you remain youthful and look youthful. But let me tell you about one of my clients. She's in her 60s, and she has silver curls and the laugh lines, and she's quite magnetic, and she's confident that she's made everyone lean in when she talks. And it's just the aura that she has when she walks into a room. And I noticed it when I first met her at a networking event. And she's surrounded by these women in her 20s, years and younger, yet there are people that they're wanting to learn from her and grow from her and take in her experience. And it's because of the confidence that she has when she walks into this room. These younger women aren't even noticing the silver or the lines on her face. And as I worked with her and we've had conversations and done coaching sessions, she's really become to learn more and more to lean into the laugh lines, because that has helped her to realize, oh, this is because I've lived a lot. I've experienced a lot of joy. And then the silver curls in her hair. People nowadays, they're paying money to have that color put in their hair, right? So she started to embrace that. And so Now she even has more radiance as she enters into this room. So the relevance doesn't come from being the youngest in the room. It comes from showing up fully present and fully yourself. Then lie number 3. First, before I get into that, let me go over and check the live feed to see what's actually happening there. All right, we're good. We're set. I am actually new at doing these lives, and I'm also new at growing my following around this topic, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with experiencing this and trying out and doing something new, which actually leads me into lie number 3. Because the lie number 3 is that you're too old to try new things. And so right now, today, I am this living, breathing, perfect example of how I'm not too old to try these new things. Because behind the scenes, on my Mac, I have my GarageBand open with the audio, taking in the audio of a feed and the camera that is allowing me to go live on YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time. So I'm learning to try new things and leveraging the technology that's right in front of me. And so this one, it does have its deep, deep roots in the believing that we are too old to try new things. Because we've been associated and taught to associate the word old with done, worn out, and finished. But old isn't a diagnosis. They don't have the word old in the medical diagnosis book. I'm not even sure what that's called, right off the top of my head. But they don't have that word in there, as a doctor doesn't give you a diagnosis of old, and your insurance company does not give you any perks or benefits or coverage for old as your diagnosis, right? And so it's not a stop sign, and it's not a diagnosis. In fact, your brain's plasticity and your brain's ability to learn, change, and grow continues well into your 70s and beyond. The key is to being intentional about it, and the key is practicing repetition, which is the same thing you actually need to do when you're younger and learning something new, and you're learning how to do a new skill. It's the same thing. You need to be intentional, and you need to have repetition. So it has nothing to do with your age. The more you engage in something new, a skill, a project, or a routine, the more your brain literally rewires itself to support that belief. So I had a client, Dana, and she took on her first watercoloring class at 58. And she told me that I thought at first, like when she came up with that idea and we were exploring what kind of things could she do, she first said, I thought it would be silly to be the age that she was, 58, and to go to a watercoloring class. But now she loves painting every weekend, and she feels like she's awake again to her life. And she's noticing, because she's painting and learning about the colors and bringing them all together, she's also more awake to the colors and the brightness of her own life. So learning something new doesn't have to be just put in place for the younger. It doesn't actually make you younger. It actually helps you feel more alive. Your health is inevitably declining. And that kind of does go back to that old is not a diagnosis, right? Your body's change, yes. Your hormones shift, yes. Energy, it can flex and go and wane. However, if you're actually honest, your energy flexed and go and waned and moved around in your 20s also. Right? So your energy, really what I've noticed, this is me, not a scientific thing, but using my own body, is when I fuel my body with, first of all, thoughts that help me feel capable and empowered, I have more energy. When I fuel my body with foods that are actually not processed, I feel more energetic. When I use my body and move it to, on purpose, gain strength and mobility and flexibility, I feel more energetic. So there are things that you can do. Decline is not your destiny. It does not have to be your destiny. And there's enormous things that you can do to impact your vitality. There's a whole section within the Aging Flip Flight plan that We cover all of that. We work on habits and processes and tools for you to put into place to do this on purpose. And they're all involved around strength training, balanced eating, walking, stress management. So the truth is, you can absolutely influence how you age. You can feel better, stronger, and clearer as you age. Then lie number 5 is that you're a burden. This one doesn't always sound like a loud voice. It can sometimes be that little tiny, quiet, subtle, hidden behind the scenes voice. And it might show up in the form of thoughts like, I don't want to bother anyone. They have their own lives. I should be able to handle this myself. But that's a story. And it actually shrinks your presence. And it can start to lead you to feel like a burden. Because when you're thinking you don't want to bother anyone, then you start to feel like you're a burden. And when you feel like that they have their own lives and I shouldn't interrupt it, you start using should and you should on yourself, right? And it's really that you're feeling like a burden. And when you're feeling like a burden, you forget your value and you won't ask for help. It's really that subtle little quiet voice and those things in this, it really does shrink your presence. And the truth is you're not a burden. You are the one who remembers the birthdays. You're the one who sends and checks in with people with the text messages, the phone calls. You hold your family together and you show up and you love deeply and you listen carefully. Your presence matters more than you actually know. And so asking for support does not make you weak. It makes you wise. It makes you honoring yourself. And so I really want to encourage you to practice that and notice that. We're coming in for a landing in my flight in the terms, right? And so on a day that is actually designated for jokes, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that the real trick that's been played on those of us that are in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, and let's start flipping that script on purpose. Because you get to believe something, anything you want, something better now. You get to you get to rewire your brain. You get to rewire your habits, and you get to rewire your story. One choice, one thought, and one breath at a time. And that's just a great idea, right? And it's also neuroscience. You have the power to teach your brain new truths. You have the power to choose new beliefs. And you have the freedom to become someone who lives forward. So those of you that are here listening or watching any of the replays of the live, I really would love to hear from you. Which one of these lies have you believed? And what's the truth that you're ready to start practicing on purpose? You can leave a comment if you're watching this on the video or see it on LinkedIn. I will reply back to you if it's on Apple's podcast or Spotify. I do see the comments. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. It's Aging Flipped. In the show notes on the podcast episode itself, you'll find a link that you can go directly to my website, and there's ways you can connect with me there. You can also direct message me on any of the social media platforms, because I really do want to know what one of the lies were and the beliefs that you had. And I am listening, and I do want to support you, and I will send you back a personal resource to help you start rewriting that story today. I will be back again next week. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Now it's your turn. What stood out for you today? Take one small step toward implementing that one thing that stood out to you today. Remember, every action, no matter how small, shapes your aging journey. I am here to cheer you on. Visit agingflipped.com for resources and tools to support you on the journey of flipping your script about aging.